Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Let's have the daily Ukrainian front update. Both the Ukrainians and the Russians worked hard to update their sites, so I will have both sides telling us what happened. And as always, or almost always, they rarely overlap their updates. They're like opposite. But in a war, you know how things are. Here you have Ukraine Forum. It is from today, the 1st of August 2023. Ukraine's General Staff reports 26 combat clashes on frontline on August 1st. Ukraine's defense forces are continuing an offensive operation in the Melitopol and Berdyansk sectors, with 26 combat clashes recorded across the frontline on Tuesday, August 1st. So remember, Melitopol and Berdyansk are the areas where the Ukrainians are trying to break the front, which is right here in Zaporizhzhia region. So Melitopol is here, Berdyansk is here. They try to cut here and here, therefore cut the Russians from being able supposedly to defend Crimean Peninsula. Maybe if they destroy Kerch Bridge totally, they cannot bring anything over there. But I think the Russians are already present here. So this is what the Ukrainians, how the Ukrainians start their little update. In total, throughout the day, Ukrainian aircraft carried out 9 strikes on Russian troops, including 7 strikes on personnel and equipment concentration areas, 1 strike on the command post, and 1 more strike on the enemy's anti-aircraft missile system. For their part, units of the Ukrainian rocket and artillery forces hit 10 artillery pieces, 4 electronic warfare stations, 4 command posts, an area of concentration of weapons and military equipment, 5 air defense systems, 3 personal concentration areas, and 2 more important enemy targets. Like what? All right. Today, the Russian army carried out 1 missile strike, 49 airstrikes, and 33 attacks using MLRS on the positions of Ukrainian forces and populated areas. Okay, so on the Volyn and Polizia axis, the operational situation has not changed significantly. As I always say, the Ukrainians start with a general update, with a little summary, and then they talk about the northern part, and then they go to Chernihiv, Sumy, and Kharkiv area, and then they go to Luhansk, Donetsk, and then they go to Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. So let's go back to they are right here talking about Belarus area where nothing happens. On the Sivershchinya and Slabozhanchina axis, Russian troops shelled more than 20 settlements with mortars and artillery. In Sumy region, in Chernihiv region, and in Kharkiv region. So according to the Ukrainians, the Russians shelled this area. Well, the Russians don't say anything about that because there would be red bullets here, or bullet points, or how you want to call them, and they're not. According to the Russians, the Ukrainians are shelling Russian positions. Let's see what's going on here. Probably a village attacked and civilian infrastructure. The governor of Bryansk said that Ukrainian forces shelled the village. There were no casualties. The shelling damaged the building of a doctor's clinic and powerful supply line to the settlement. That's why I don't access these blue ones, because wherever the Russians report it is always civilians and villages, which might be, but just so you know, it's nothing like that's what the Russians report. Now the red dots are the Russians, according to the Russians, shelling military positions, Ukrainian military positions. The yellow ones are drones that are destroyed, or airplanes and helicopters, and the black stuff is where the troops supposedly meet face to face. Let's go back to the Ukrainians. We go to Kupiansk axis. They give it a few settlements, saying that they came under artillery and mortar fire from the Russians. Now, where's Kupiansk? Kupiansk is right here in this area. Right here is Kupiansk. This is Kupiansk. So they're talking about the Russians shelling area. Let's see what the Russians say. Russian forces struck a Ukrainian Zoopark 3 counter-battery radar system. Battle group hammered Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. Ukrainian troops using air artillery strikes. The hammered troops. Okay, and well, let's see what's going on here. Assault units of the Zapad battle group continued their offensive and gained a foothold in advantageous positions. What kind? Russian forces successfully repelled 2 attacks by Ukrainian units on the 25th Airborne Brigade. Now the Ukrainians are going to move down to Lyman, which is right here. Just so you know, let's see what happened here. 3 Ukrainian drones were downed by the Russians, according to the Russians, obviously. Let's see here. The Center battle group successfully repelled an attack by Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. You see, here in the Lyman, the Russians will say that the Ukrainians are attacking. When I'm going to read the Ukrainians update, they will going to say the Russians are attacking. That's why I'm like, okay. Russian forces thwarted the activity of a Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance group. This is in the Lyman area. The center battle group successfully repelled an attack by Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. Russian forces carried out a combined strike on Ukrainian troops. Again, forces struck Ukrainian troops. Again, Ukrainian troops. And let's see what the Ukrainians are saying about Lyman, about everything I read by whatever the Russians said. On the Lyman axis, the invaders fired artillery at Navske and Bilohorivka in the Luhansk region and 3 more other regions in Donetsk region. Nothing about their attacks. In Bakhmut axis, that is lower than, so south of Lyman, which the Russians call Artemovsk, right here. If you look here, nothing happened here. But let's see if the Ukrainians were going to say something. The Russians, in the meantime, say that Russian forces struck Ukrainian troops. And here, Ukrainian forces fired 4 152mm shells at the settlement. The Yug battle group successfully repelled all attacks by Russian troops. So let's see what by the Ukrainian troops. And here we have the Ukrainians. On the Bakhmut axis, the enemy made unsuccessful attempts to recapture the positions they lost north and west of Klishchivka, Donetsk region. More than 10 settlements came under our enemy. I'm talking about the Ukrainians, talking about the Russians. Artillery shelling, including Bohdanivka, Shasir Yar, Ivanivske, and Bilahora in the Donetsk region. We're going to move south to Avdiivka axis, which is south of Artemovsk. We're going to go to right here. Avdiivka is right here. So let's see what the Russians are saying. The Yug battle group successfully repelled all attacks by Ukrainian troops. And here, Russian forces struck Ukrainian troops. All these things I'm not going to read them because this is what the Russians say. They destroyed civilians and all that, so I don't go into that. Here, Russian forces destroyed 2 ammunition depots and a rocket and artillery ordnance depot of Ukraine's 24th Mechanized Brigade. So, this is right here, so you can see where we are getting closer to Zaporizhzhia. This is where usually the Russians are in the offensive, but nothing really today. The next stop will be Marinka, which is going to be this area, and then it's going to be Shakhtarske, just so you know. So let's go to the Ukrainians. On the Avdiivka axis, Ukrainian defense forces successfully repelled enemy attacks near Avdiivka under heavy fire from Russian aircraft and artillery. More than 10 settlements were hit by enemy's artillery. That's it. Marinka, south of Avdiivka, Ukrainian forces continue to hold back the advance of Russian troops. So according to the Ukrainians, the Russians are trying to advance. Outside the city of Marinka, the invaders carried out an airstrike in the Krasnohorivka area, shelling more than 10 settlements in Donetsk region. And then they go to Shakhtarske axis, but we're going to go to the Russians in the meantime to see what they say they did in this area right here, where is the Marinka area. Battles are raging in the city. The Yug battle group successfully repelled all attacks by Ukrainian troops. This is in Marinka. And here, Russian forces struck Ukrainian troops. We have here Ukrainian drone down, another Ukrainian drone down, another Ukrainian drone down. They used artillery to shell the Ukrainians, and here Russian forces destroyed an ammunition depot of Ukraine's 38th Marine Brigade. Here is already Shakhtarske area. The Vostok battle group hammered Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes, and here the Vostok battle group successfully repelled an attack by Ukrainian troops. So this is where the Ukrainians start being an offensive, from here to here. That's it. That's the area. And the Russians don't seem to show too much activity here, but we're going to see what the Ukrainians say about Shakhtarsk. On the Shakhtarske axis, the Russian army attacked the areas of Blahodadne and Staromayorsk in the Donetsk region. The enemy also made unsuccessful attempts to take back the positions they lost east of Staromayorsk, with artillery attacks attacking more than 10 settlements, including Vuhledar, Vodiane, Blahodane, and Zolota Niva of the Donetsk region. We're going to go to Zaporizhzhia. Now this is where the big nothing burger counteroffensive of the Ukrainian forces supposedly occurs. So on the Zaporizhzhia axis, Russian troops are continuing their main efforts of preventing the further advance of Ukrainian defense forces. So they claim they are advancing, but the Russians are trying. More than 15 settlements of the Zaporizhzhia region came under artillery fire from the Russians. Not much. Alright, so the invaders carried out an airstrike near Orkiv, Zaporizhzhia region. And we're going to move to Kherson, but before we do that, we're going to go to these guys and see what the Russians say here. So, the Russian air defense shot down a Ukrainian drone. So this is in Zaporizhzhia. This is the big counteroffensive right here. Again, another drone down. Let's read this one. They say that Ukrainian forces shelled the village. 3 civilians were killed and another 15 were wounded. Okay, got that? Now you know why I don't read these kind of things. And here the Vostok battle group hammered Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. And here it's the same probably. Yeah, the same. Nothing about the Ukrainians advancing, according to the Russians. Now we're going to move to the last, here, Enerhodar. Russian air defenses shot down 2 Ukrainian drones. This is where the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is, actually, right exactly here, Enerhodar. And here is where the dam used to be, Kakovka, right here. Right here, this used to be the dam on the Dnieper River that the Russians destroyed. So we're going right now to Kherson, excusez-moi, Oblast. So let's see what the Ukrainians are saying. On the Kherson axis, Russian artillery attacked more than 10 settlements, including Kherson. Alright, and that's it with these guys. Not much information. Let's go to the Russians. So I'm not gonna look into this blue Christmas because it's civilians here. Ukrainian forces fired 8 shells at the village using cannon artillery. Russian air defenses shot down a Ukrainian drone, another Ukrainian drone, and here is 3 Ukrainian drones. Let's see what the Russians claim they did. The Dnieper battle group struck Ukrainian positions. 3 were killed and wounded. And that's about it, my friends. Very flimsy. If you are to read what these guys are saying, not much occurs over there, but obviously this is a macro update of the front, not a micro. So I'm good with that because I like to see how things evolve or devolve. In this case, no major changes. I would say no changes at all. Neither side claimed any advances or any successes. They say, yeah, man, we are, Okay, this is the today, August 1st, 2023 update, front update. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.